Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. I am SpraynPray1000 and today we're going to talk about the sequel to a game that was actually a surprise playthrough for me and one I pretty rather enjoyed that was completely unexpected. Today I'm going to talk about Need for Speed Rivals, the 2013 edition of Need for Speed, which apparently they release every year. I didn't even know that Need for Speed did it on a yearly basis, but they do. So today we're going to talk about Need for Speed Rivals, which is the latest incarnation of the Need for Speed franchise. So yeah, Need for Speed. Need for Speed is a racing franchise. Pretty much they have various cars, real-world cars, get put into this game. And Need for Speed is, unlike Gran Turismo and Forza, typically focuses more on street racing, which is illegal, so the cops get involved. And a lot of times you'll just have straight-up races, you know, in these vast open-world areas, filled with only cars, by the way. There's no pedestrians, no one out walking, because obviously that would make things really bad. There's, you know, and you have these long races with people. Specifically in Rivals, there's 4 different types of events that you can partake in. There are, I'm trying to think of them. I apologize. There's races, which is where you and a bunch of AI racers, or you know, we'll get to that in a minute. You and a bunch of AI racers can go at it. There's time trials, where basically it's you by yourself trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. There are Hot Pursuit, which is basically a race, but the police are involved, and so you kind of there's going to be a heavy police presence. And then there's also Interceptors, which is you basically trying to outrun and hide from the police. So there's 4 main kinds of events. Of course, there's other stuff in there. There's also speed cameras that you need to blaze by at however fast your car can go. There's also repair shops out in the field that can fix up your car. There's jumps, like ramps that you can launch your car off of to try and see how much air you can get. A lot of which is returning from Most Wanted 2012, and which probably returned from other games. I'm just basing, because Most Wanted 2012 was the most recent Need for Speed I played, besides this one. So pretty much, what do I think about this game? I think that, plain and simply, Need for Speed Rivals is a very average, very generic game. There's nothing exactly spicy and magnificent about this game. It pretty much plays as is. It pretty much is what it is, and that's what it is. And by that I mean you basically pick your car, you choose what race you want to get into, you race in it, and you're good. So that's pretty much what the game is, and I wish it was a little more than that. Now, what is interesting about this game is the fact that it actually lets you play as both sides of the law. I'm not sure if they've done this before in Need for Speed. I think they did. I think I read something that said they did, but I can't speak for that right now. They let you play as either a cop or as a racer. Now, the racing gameplay is pretty much, you know, standard fare. That's typically what Need for Speed is. The cop gameplay is pretty much, you know, you play as the cops, and now your goal is to stop the racers from doing their illegal street racing. There's 3 different kinds of cop vehicles. There's enforcers, patrol, and undercover. Undercover is typically the faster. Enforcer is more for car-to-car combat, like you're trying to ram people off the road. And not to mention that, but both sides of the law also get gadgets and basically stuff that they can attach to their cars that make them more powerful. So, for example, as a racer, you can put up an electrostatic field, which when activated basically gives your car this electrical field that temporarily disables and disorientates anyone who rams into you or whoever you ram into. There's also mines that you can drop to stun people behind you. There's also an EMP you can launch at the car in front of you that temporarily slows it. So it's kind of like a Mario Kart-esque twist, but it adds a bit more diversity than just simply racing and trying to ram people off the road, which I can respect them for trying to do that. There's also a lot of roads, there's like hidden paths and stuff that you can go through. Also, driving through a repair shop will fully repair your car's health. You can actually see the health bar in your car now, which is very important because a lot of times you could actually get wrecked and completely lose everything. Also, returning to this game, similar to Most Wanted 2012, is the speed point system. Pretty much, as you do races, as a racer, as you do races, what you get is you get these things called speed points. And what happens with speed points is that you accumulate them. You get a multiplier for more events you do, but this also raises your heat level. So whenever the police get involved, they come in more and more. They become more and more aggressive to try and stop you as your heat level goes up. So it's a gamble. It's how much do you want to risk getting caught out with a high heat level as compared to gaining more points. And if you get wrecked or if you get busted by the police, you lose all your points. You go back to the nearest hideout with 0 SP, 0 speed points. So it's a gamble. It's do you want to bank now? And by returning to a hideout, you bank your points, which means they cannot be they're basically safe. You won't lose them if you get busted, and they get added to your total stash. So it's a gamble, and I like that. I think it's high risk, high reward, which is what they're trying to go for with the whole attitude of this game. They want this game to be high risk, high reward, talking about the different sides of the law. Unfortunately, this game is plagued by some problems. Most of which is that this game actually takes place server side on EA's servers. Now, I actually do not mind EA's servers or anything like that. I don't mind that. But what I do mind is when that's the only option available in a game. Today, and actually I think 2 other times while attempting to play this game actually refused to connect to the EA servers. It sat there for something like 10 minutes trying to connect, and that to me was just I just want to play the game. All the other Need for Speed games don't require that. Online connections is sort of at least from what I believe, is an optional thing. This game, I don't know if it actually boots offline, but connecting to the servers taking 10 minutes, that's definitely not a point in his favor. Now, the real killing blow to this game, unfortunately, I feel, is the fact that it's just repetitive and it doesn't have as much of an intriguing factor as Most Wanted. So, for example, in Most Wanted, the goal of the game was to accrue enough speed points that you could challenge this list of most wanted drivers, basically people who drive the top 10 best cars in the street and are the top 10 racers. And that was the goal of the game, for you to go from being Joe Schmo to gaining enough speed points so you can challenge all 10 of these people and then take their cars and beat them totally. And the problem with that storyline was that, well, it's not engrossing, there's no one to get attached to, it's just pretty much cut and dry. This game actually goes a step further in the wrong direction and makes it so that pretty much your whole goal is to complete a laundry list set by that you set for yourself. There's 3 different kinds of laundry lists, one involving races, another involving police, and another just involving driving in general. And typically the challenges go like this. Gold in the event, wreck enough cars, ram into people from behind, ram into people from the side, hit people with certain weapon, etc., etc., etc. Launch your car so far, and after a certain point, it's fun for the first couple of hours, but then after a certain point, it just kind of turns boring. It just kind of turns lackluster, and it loses its appeal, I feel. And after a certain point, I kind of felt myself getting bored. It just didn't really seem to add too much diversity. It didn't seem to really push the game in, so far in any direction. And unfortunately, I feel that doesn't lend itself very well to the game. And the game suffers for it. The game turns into a repetitive grind. Also, the multiplayer of this game, I'm not even sure if it has like a real dedicated racing multiplayer. I think that what they did for this game, and actually that I've neglected to mention so far, they institute something in addition to Easy Drive and Autolog from Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012, they've included something called All Drive. And this actually ties in with the whole server side stuff that they do with this game. In All Drive, what they do is they put people on a server. Up to 6 people can be on a server. And what they do is they're all playing the game at the same time. So, for example, you could be a racer or you could be a cop, and 5 other people have that choice. And unfortunately, what I didn't like about this is I think they neglected to put in a real multiplayer. So, for example, all 6 of you can race in an event at once. You can, by doing that, basically all of you line up at the start of a race, and then you all basically race together, and, you know, it goes on like that. But the problem with that is it's hard to communicate. It's hard, you know, what if I just want to do some, you know, generic races with random people online instead of having to, like, try and get people to work together and do that kind of thing? I don't think that option exists in the game. I think that that's the only option that they actually have in the game is just to race through All Drive, which is kind of annoying. What if I wanted to just do some stand-up, straight-up multiplayer with no strings attached? Well, unfortunately, I think I'm kind of screwed. I don't think I can do that in this game. And, I mean, I do like the aspect that, oh, you know, people can play as cops or people can play as racers, and, you know, it's up to the cops. The human cops can actually interfere with the human racers. I like that aspect, but I just feel that there's some stuff really keeping the game back, you know, between the lack of real multiplayer and just the boredom of the single player. That's why I'm going to give this game a generic score. I feel that that's, you know, as compared to Most Wanted 2012, which had a really, really interesting single player. Well, not entirely interesting, but at least way better than this game's. I have to give this game a generic score because I was kind of bored playing this game. You know, after the first hour or so, it kind of lost its appeal, and just turned into another generic driver. So what would I give Need for Speed Rivals? I'm gonna give it a 75 out of 100. I mean, it's functional. There's a lot of stuff to do, but it's just generic and boring. And a lot of times you can't even really use the car you want because the cars actually max out after a certain point. You can't attach higher level stuff onto it. Now, that being said, what I do like is the fact that you can customize your car. You can give it a paint job. You can give it designs, what do they call them? Liveries. A lot of interesting stuff. I do like that. Unfortunately, like stuff like your license plate gets reset every time you switch to a different car, which I don't really understand. But other than that, the game is what it is. I do think that they did a decent job with this game. I just think that it could be much better in a lot of different places. So that's all I have to say for Need for Speed Rivals. Big number 30, 30th verdict, and let's keep it going strong. So until next time.